What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to our Texas real estate and construction channel. This is Aaron Trevino coming to you from Houston, Texas. And today we have a very interesting guest with a really interesting military background. He's also in real estate. So we have Johnny Lynum. He's a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force. He is a seasoned real estate investor and a coach, currently owns 73 doors at over $8 million, and the author of a few books who, I'm sure we're going to talk about them on the show. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. And Johnny, welcome to the show tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Glad to be here, bro.
Yes, sir. I know this was, this was in progress for a little bit, so honored to have you on here. For those of us who aren't too familiar with you, I know that was a short intro, but could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so I reside from LA, not quite the LA on the West Coast, but on the Gulf Coast with Lower Alabama. Humble beginnings, man, down in Alabama, kind of rural town, growing up with my dad was a pastor and a small business owner, and my mom was a phlebotomist, worked in the lab. And so, just really humble upbringings. Went to the University of Alabama, got my electrical engineering degree, and during that time, I went through ROTC. And so I commissioned as an officer coming out of college. And, man, been working 17 and a half years in the Air Force serving. And along the way, got married to my beautiful wife, Melissa. We got 3 lovely kids. And, also along the way, I found real estate.
It's so funny you said LA because it took my mind somewhere else. I've never heard someone say LA, Lower Alabama. So I love that. I thought that was funny.
Yep, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great synopsis there. And I'm curious as well. I know, you said you grew up in LA, Lower Alabama. Coming up, you talked a bit about your family, your parents, what they do. Did you, as a child, did you foresee yourself working in real estate, or kind of what sparked your interest in real estate in particular?
No, that's a great question because I had no clue. It's funny, and I talk about in my book that my credit was jacked up coming out of college. And it was a super humbling experience having to have a family member sign on my lease for my apartment at my first duty station for my first job coming out of college. But it really echoed that, even though I had a college degree, I went through 12 years of high school through grade school, I didn't have a high IQ when it came to financial literacy. They didn't teach you. And that was one of the things. They didn't teach you about credit, real estate, investing in stocks, bonds, how to evaluate a company, how to read a financial statement, how to, enhance your credit to have a high credit score, and just the benefits of having a high credit score. Didn't know any of that stuff. And so it took me learning that outside of the traditional schoolhouse to be able to get going and build momentum, getting that first property and everything. So I think that kind of led to me being able to kind of go and just seek out the information to kind of get to where I am today.
Absolutely. And regardless of whether it's, public or private school, we go through those 12 years and, we're checking all the boxes, and, you think you're doing the right thing, which, maybe you are. And then you cross the stage and then you kind of realize in the real world, it's like, wow, I'm just beginning. I have so much to learn, on the financial side as well.
100%, 100%. And I think that's the biggest thing that kind of drove me. But after I closed on my first house using my VA loan, I got a check back at closing that I was just hooked after that, and then just kind of started to continue to learn and make progress. And it happened over time, and it definitely wasn't immediate. That it was definitely a transformation process that I went through.
Absolutely. And, I was curious as well, I know that you've written multiple books, right?
Well, I wrote my first book in 2021, and then some smaller ebooks, not as long and as involved, but books kind of that speak to, just mistakes that I made. My most recent one was the 7 challenges that veterans face in building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. The most recent ebook that I have, to just kind of share, with the audience and just others who are looking to get started, just challenges that I overcame, whereas that hopefully they don't have to worry about, or that make those same mistakes and go through those same type of difficulties, that they can kind of accelerate their journey to build a wealth.
Absolutely. And, a lot of those, whether it's an ebook, a physical copy, it doesn't matter. A lot of that content is so needed, right? Because, I've even heard of guys who will even, write a letter to themselves. If I could, speak to a younger Johnny, 10, 15 years ago, what would I tell him? And before you know it, page by page by page, you got a book on your hands, right?
Right. Yep. No, it happens fast. And just that whole process that there's so much you can gain from other people's story and just the wisdom that I think a lot of people discount and lose sight of it. But at the same time, it's like you can get all this information, but if you don't take action and actually use it, then it's like, okay, it's just as bad as not doing it.
Absolutely. And there's a lot to be said for that as well. And, I'm curious as well, obviously, you mentioned how you're an active military member of the U.S. Air Force. Could you maybe talk a bit about, some of the challenges in particular that maybe military members would have when trying to invest in real estate, or maybe some kind of hiccups you could have along the way and how to kind of surpass that?
For sure, for sure. That's great because a lot of times us as members, we're constantly moving. But I'm definitely a proponent of looking at the positive because every situation that, you never see a one-sided piece of paper or a one-sided coin that, one-sided slice of bread, that there's always two sides to every situation. I think we have a opportunity to leverage a lot of the challenges, whether it's moving every 3 or 4 years, that you can look at it as a challenge, but you also look at it as an opportunity to experience different real estate markets, different opportunities to pick up real estate, to become a landlord from a primary residence that you purchased originally. So I think that's the biggest thing, but that I think moving around is definitely a challenge that we have to overcome and look for opportunities to leverage that to our benefit. But then also, just the time away from family is always a challenge. That with deployments or extended trainings, temporary duty in different locations, that it just makes the military duty a little bit different than just a traditional 9 to 5 job, and just kind of always being on the clock. So I think those are kind of two of the challenges that we face. And then once you get in the area, you're constantly being uprooted, starting over fresh for your network. But I see those as opportunities now that you have the expanded knowledge of being in multiple areas, over a 10-year career. Now you could potentially be in 3 or 4 different locations that you've been able to study, dive into, and know or have an intimate knowledge of 4 different markets compared to somebody who may have just lived in one area their entire life. So that's an advantage. And so I think that's some of the things that we can look at and leverage with an experience, and then just the VA loan benefit that you can have with getting into property without putting a down payment is just a great resource to have.
Sure. And that's a really refreshing perspective to hear as well, right? Because a lot of people could look at it with, with the glass half empty, right? Oh man, I'm being uprooted every 3 or 4 years. I got to move again. And then, I'm obviously moving somewhere I'm not familiar with, and I already have my own duty to do, during the day. And then of course, trying to incorporate real estate, I can see how that could be maybe a bit frustrating or difficult to even make time for.
No, most definitely, because I think that's one of the critical things that you don't understand. A lot of people, they envy not being able to invest in the market, and so once you do it a couple of times and you invest out of state, or you because you have a knowledge there, that it just allows you to move and think about things differently with how to put pieces together, how to put systems in place, and how to leverage other people's time. And we as military members, that when we step into certain situations, or essentially when we put the uniform on, that we're expected to be leaders from day one. And so I think the leadership opportunities and abilities that we have and that we're trained over time to pick up, that sometimes we don't give ourselves credit, and we don't know how we can translate that over to being a savvy real estate investor, to kind of leading a team, because real estate is definitely a team sport. When you look at all the different industries and professionals that touch a real estate transaction, from a realtor or a seller, the title company, the closing attorney, your contractors that you're managing, the buyer on the back end, or your residents, your tenants, that you have so many people in between that come in to make you successful, that the leadership abilities that we have and we gain through military service definitely translate over to success in real estate investing.
Absolutely. And at least on its face, it's funny, when you think of, buying or selling a home, a lot of times you just think of two parties involved. But, of course, like you just said, there's title, the closing attorney, there's all these different people. And, it sounds cliche, but real estate truly is a team sport.
No, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm curious as well, maybe some, if we could have maybe some actionable steps, right? So maybe, I'm in the Air Force. and I'm stationed somewhere. I know I'm going to be there for 3 or 4 years. Obviously, there's a lot on my plate. I want to leverage the money that I'm making through the military right now to be able to set myself up for maybe, retirement later on, or maybe I want to get out or whatever it may be. What are some actionable steps that an active military member could make to put themselves in a good position to invest?
No, that's a wonderful question, man. And I think the first one, assuming that they haven't bought a place, that one, you want to look at finding a primary residence. And one of the things that I encourage young airmen that, if they're not married, especially if they don't have kids, that they have a great opportunity to house hack, whereas they can pick up a duplex, a triplex, a quadplex, all using their VA loan because it's still considered residential, it's not commercial. So any 2 through 4 unit they can pick up with no money down, with 100% financing with their VA loan. So I would challenge them to definitely look in their market and to look for multifamily opportunities like that they can use to become an instant landlord. And then when they relocate, they can put a tenant in their unit, and then boom, they could have 2 units, 3 or 4 that they're managing, leaving out of one duty station, and they can look at repeating it again when they get to the next one. So I think that would be the first advice. And then and just really to take action and to get the information that you need, but really be willing to take action, because the sooner you can get in and start investing in real estate, that the sooner you can start building that momentum and getting that progress, with just getting the action that comes with taking that first deal down and just the benefits of it.
Absolutely. And that's there are a lot of great things to take away from what you just said, but a lot of it sounds like it's not I guess in a way it could be market specific, but if anything, you're kind of suggesting you can copy paste that to wherever your next duty station is.
100%, 100%. And I think it starts with your mind, with your mindset, and understanding what it is that you want to do, whether it's writing down your goals, journaling, whether it's creating a vision board. But I'm a true proponent of it. If that's what you're going to look for and what you want to happen, and you're constantly taking steps to make it happen, then you're gonna find it. You're gonna achieve it. You're gonna manifest it. And so I'm a true believer of that. And that there's deals out here, whereas that you're only looking for one. You're not looking for 100 or 10. You're only looking for one deal, and there's millions of houses, all over the U.S. and we're in cities, so you're only looking for one deal. And so if you're actively looking and you're consistently taking action, then success is gonna find you.
Absolutely. And that's a refreshing, perspective to hear as well, especially now, with the economy changing, we have, supply chain issues, inflation, what all these other external factors coming into play. It can make people think that, hey, there's no deals out here, or hey, it's hard to get business, it's hard to build a business. So I think a lot of those thoughts can kind of be looming in someone's head. What would you tell someone who's looking to invest right now, maybe as we're in a recession where it could get worse later on?
Yep. No. One of the strategies that we're leveraging, we're definitely being more judicious. We're being conservative with our numbers and underwriting. That we're looking back a couple years on where probably one great metric for us that we're tracking on my single family side, price per square foot. We're tracking where things were kind of early 2019, kind of going back, looking at numbers from that perspective when we're doing our underwriting, and just letting sellers know, hey, the market's shifting. This is what we're paying. We feel comfortable going back with having after repair values back at this level. And from there, it's just a matter of the numbers backing in on what we can pay. And so I think just having those conversations with sellers, but the same thing on the multifamily side, we're being real conservative. It's extremely hard right now with the lower loan to values that banks have out there for their loan products, because right now in a lot of markets that we have interest rates higher than cap rates. And it's just extremely hard to be able to raise money and then be able to get enough cash flow on the deals where you can pay investors a reasonable return. So I think right now that we're kind of playing a waiting game, that there's still some seller financing opportunities out here. My primary niche, we focus on deals 40 units and below, where we like to go direct to owner, where we can negotiate some great deals and work directly with owner operators, where we can come in and implement a value add business plan and kind of force equity, force appreciation and and kind of buy for cash flow long term. And so if we're still able to do that, the numbers work at the higher rates, then it's perfect. But I think the biggest thing right now is that there's deals out here. You just got to find the right motivated seller that's willing to sell at the right price that cash flows at the current interest rates.
Absolutely. No. And there's a lot of great takeaways from, what you just said. And amongst that is, being more conservative with your numbers, right? Maybe, using procedures that you would have done in years past, kind of applying them to now and in the future. And of course, obviously, like you said, going direct to seller, it sounds like that's y'all's, more or less what you guys do, and really just analyzing the deal properly.
Yep, nope, 100%, 100%. And I think it's Warren Buffett that says when there's blood in the streets, it's the time to be buying. And
Mhm.
when everybody's doing deals and everybody's all up, everybody's being successful and doing, real estate investing or buying stocks or day trading, that's the time to kind of take a step back and get ready for winter time like these that we're going through right now, where it's a little instability and everybody's kind of panicking and don't know what to do, and they're watching the news.
Absolutely. And aside from the conservative underwriting that maybe you guys do, is it, when you say it's a waiting game, is it more about just kind of sitting on the cash that you have for the next few months? Or, when you say waiting, what exactly are we waiting for?
Yeah, great question, because really just waiting for the changes in the economy and for some of the indicators, with I think the number one being the Fed funds rate. We're just kind of watching over the next couple Federal Reserve meetings to see where the federal fund rate goes. A couple people are projecting, that they're going to ease up since it's actually working. Inflation is kind of tapering back some; it's still high, but they're looking for the rate increases to probably taper off and stop here over the next couple of meetings. So I think once that happens, that we may see interest rates continue to go down. And once the interest rates continue to go down further, I think you'll see more, a little bit more activity pick up. And I think it's going to take a little bit more time for sellers to get realistic on their asking prices. That the market has shifted, and with these with the higher interest rates, that a lot of people are realizing that they can't sell for what they used to could sell for, 6 months ago or a year ago. And so I think just once we get back in equilibrium, where the sellers and buyers' expectations kind of get closer to one another, that I think you'll start seeing more transactions and properties changing hands. So, but until then, like you said, have your cash reserves, continue to hone in on your skill set with learning your market, doing the networking, meet with brokers, talking with owners out there, and just letting them know where you are in the market, and and just get ready.
Sure. Well, that's a great take there. And it's interesting as well, kind of looking back, and you think, wow, what really is normal, right? You think about 2019 going into 2020, obviously a lot of things changed with the economy, the supply chain over the past few years or so, and even now. So it can be maybe a bit daunting for someone to try to navigate, what's ahead of us.
Yep, no, 100%. I think that's where, especially if you're a younger investor or not as seasoned, you didn't live through the '08 crisis and things like that, it's the time to just align with different communities, with operators that have been there, done that have lived through different market cycles, and just being able to glean insight from them on what they're doing and what other people are doing. Whereas then you can kind of craft your own strategy based on your market and what's happening in your market, because real estate is local. We talk about a lot of things that's happening at the national level, but at the end of the day, it's at the local level what's happening in your neck of the woods in regards to unemployment, what's happening with new jobs coming into the area, and understanding, is there a lot of new construction, or the iBuyers in your market? Just understanding the intricate details of what's happening to the economy in the local area, so you can know how you need to proceed and how things are changing and evolving over time.
It's so interesting you say that, Johnny. I was just talking, with a friend, I think it was around last month or so. And, we were talking about how, the future is local, right? So it's almost like there is that sort of need, not just in real estate, but just really in any aspect of business. It seems like people are wanting to do things locally, and, have that hands-on boots on the ground expertise, locally.
Yep, no, that's where the wealth is made, with just having that intimate knowledge and being able to go deep in any one market, with just establishing the relationships, the systems, the management and the teams there, whereas that allows you to just onboard new properties and you're not just recreating the wheel in different areas and kind of spreading yourself thin across the board, unless you have a really a large team and an experienced team that you can do that. So I definitely agree that local is where it's at, especially now as things start changing with the economy like that. You want to niche down and you want to get really, really close to your income and being able to laser focus in on the areas where you can just drive some efficiencies and continue to be profitable.
Absolutely. And, for you, I know that you talked a bit about your parameters, it was under 40 units, right? That you're looking for.
Yep.
Yeah. So, kind of under the 40 unit mark, would you say you're looking mostly for deals in Lower Alabama, or maybe if someone's out there, they're looking to sell or they're just looking to connect, where are you looking for deals?
Yeah, primarily the major MSAs, so Montgomery, Mobile, Huntsville, and Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay, very good. Yeah, well, definitely note that in the show notes. Johnny, is there anything that you haven't said that you'd really just like to hit home for our audience?
Really just encourage people to just assess where you are right now, and understand and I think everybody should have some form of real estate in their portfolio to diversify when you start talking about retirement accounts and things like that. And just really, for those that sit on the fence, take action, continue to learn and grow, and and just continue to get out there and take action and make deals happen.
Absolutely. No, there's definitely a lot of gems, a lot of big takeaways from today's show. Johnny, maybe we're in another part of Alabama, we're in one of the major MSAs, we're down here in Texas, another state, or we just want to get in touch with you about some deals. Where can we find you?
Yeah, most definitely. My website, johnnylynum.com, is a great resource to reach out and find me. I'm on LinkedIn as well too, Johnny Lynum. And then also you can check out my real estate investing community, REI Genius. And just continue to bring on great operators, investors, and vendors as well too, to provide wonderful workshops for my real estate investing community for all over. We pretty much bring people in from all over the U.S. to come in and talk shop and just strategies that they're leveraging to just crush it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was a pleasure, speaking about all these different things, learned a bit more about you, about your background, about how LA a lot of times is not Los Angeles, it's actually Lower Alabama. And, of course, a lot of different ways that you analyze deals. So, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today, Johnny.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on, Aaron.
Talk to you later.
All right.